Hey everybody, this is Maximilian. I'm sorry it's been a while. I've had I actually haven't had that much of a week going on, but I've had a lot of stuff going on this weekend, and just not a lot of free time in general. So, while I wasn't nearly as busy as I was about a week ago, it's still been somewhat hectic. I mean, I've basically gotten probably 5 hours of sleep since, oh gosh, last 2 days, because I had a programming competition at the University of Illinois. But more on that later. I'd like to touch on this briefly. I figured I'd show you guys this because some people are curious about it. Some people have mentioned the whole glitch with catching Missing No. If you catch an M block, which is what this variant of Missing No is right here, it's actually different than Missing No. They're not the same. If you throw a Pokeball at it and catch it, you'll end up fighting with an invisible Ditto. So if you catch it again, you actually get a Ditto. That Ditto will show up in my Pokebox because I only have one empty slot. But if you give Missing No a rare candy, it actually evolves into a Kangaskhan. Why this is, I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that the M block Missing No is at the hex slot 0 on the database, and Kangaskhan is at slot 2. Maybe that has something to do with it, I don't know. But this Kangaskhan has all of the moves that the Missing No normally has, and it has the experience underflow problem again, because it is level 1. So I just figured I'd show you guys that. And then when you do catch the Ditto ends up being level 0, but as soon as you withdraw it, it becomes level 1. If you do attempt this glitch, make sure that you catch Missing No into your party and not let it transfer to the PC. Because if you do that, if you attempt to withdraw it from your PC, the game will crash. And I don't know if changing your box will corrupt the save data, but it's generally safer to just keep it in your party and not deal with that at all. Because dealing with a glitch Pokemon is very risky. So that's just my advice to you. But that's not the main focus of this episode. That's just another little Easter egg I threw at you guys. What we're going to do primarily for this episode is beat Sabrina. So we're going to go into Saffron City. We're going to take care of Sabrina. And then this is the last Pokemon gym. So go ahead and vote for your Elite Four Pokemon. This is the last chance you get to do it, so make sure you take advantage of it. And I guess I'll announce the winners next episode. Maybe I could put like a special kind of video up for it. I don't know. I figured it'd just be easier to take care of it along the way. But for the most part, the results have been fairly clear-cut. We just need a few more votes to break a few ties, see what happens. In the event of a tiebreaker, I will choose it at random, because there is a pretty good chance that one of the slots will be at least a tiebreaker for 1 or 2 points. But only time will tell, I suppose. So I'll count all the votes posted on this video until I post the next one. In which case, or until I record the next one anyway. In which case I will tally them up, and I'll probably post the results in the description once it's taken care of. But that is that. So that's business you need to attend to. So if you actually walk out of the building in Cinnabar Island with the fossils, and you walk back in, apparently that's all the time you need. So, yeah. I wasn't aware of that, I figured I'd try it, and it ended up working, so yeah, if you want to cut some time, go ahead. Sabrina is about the same level par as Koga is. I think maybe one of her Pokemon is at a slightly higher level, maybe 2. But she's essentially the same difficulty. The only tricky part is getting there. Because they decided that the best way to implement this gym would be to put a bunch of warp pads everywhere. And warp pads are no fun at all. So it's just basically guessing and checking. And I figured I'd just guess as much as I could and fight every trainer I could because I like level grinding. That's what I do. So, Mew is especially good here because of all the psychic typecasting that goes on in the gym, which means their attacks are generally not great against you, and since you have the ability to use attacks that don't typecast like Mega Punch and Pound, and you also have the ability to use Metronome, you do have quite a bit of an advantage even if your level doesn't stack up to theirs. So that's just my general strategy for going through this. Alakazam is, while he does have a very high special and he's resistant to psychic attacks, he doesn't have anything outside of his own psychic attacks, so they're essentially ineffective. I would basically put him on the bench for this one and whip out someone like Gyarados to take care of this. Because he has a very high attack stat, and generally speaking, most psychic Pokemon, except for Slowpoke. Slowpoke's a general exception to this rule. They don't have a very high defense. And since water Pokemon generally have a higher attack, they can be good for fighting against psychic Pokemon, especially since nothing typecasts against psychic Pokemon for super effective in the game. Unless, of course, they have a subtype which you can exploit. Like in this case, if I had my Dragonair out, I could use Thunderbolt on a Slowbro. That kind of deal. But for the most part, the Pokemon up to Sabrina are just menial, run-of-the-mill, very average. You can deal with them with no problem at all. Sabrina's you might have a little bit of trouble with, but it's basically all about being smart with what Pokemon you throw out there, and knowing when to hold back and use your items. Because psychic Pokemon that she has have a very high special stat, and as such their attacks do a ton of damage, regardless of whether or not they are super effective. So just be sure you keep an eye on your HP and your Pokemon, especially for their defense stats and such. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm pausing a lot. I actually have some gum in my mouth, and I don't know why I have that in my mouth right now, and I'm trying to talk. It makes this very difficult, to say the least. But I apologize for that if this gets annoying or anything. I love gum. I'm just going to throw it out there. I love gum. I hate it having a bad taste in my mouth. You know, like, after you eat and you have something like onions, garlic, just anything in general, you feel like you have terrible breath. I hate having that feeling in my mouth. But brushing my teeth takes too long or whatever. Maybe I'm just too lazy. So I just love popping in gum. I love the taste of a minty mouth. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm like a germaphobe or something, or a breathophobe. Whatever. I don't know. I just love gum. I go through gum like chain smokers go through cigarettes. You have no idea. Like, those biggie pack things you can buy at Walmart, I probably go through about one a week. So I chew a lot of gum. I'm like that, what's that face, that Violet Beauregard kid from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But not nearly as obsessive. Don't get me wrong, I am not like that. But nonetheless, I love my gum. So anyway, I had mentioned earlier that I was at a programming competition this weekend at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, which is it's the Illinois University, the Finding Illini, if you don't know. What they do is every year they host a conference called Reflections Projections, and within that conference there's a programming competition called MechMania. Essentially what they do is they'll have about 20 or so, a little over 20 teams, who gather to write an artificial intelligence to run the game that they give you. They explain the rules of the game the night before. And then you have 24 hours the next day to write an AI which will play this game better than anybody else, or score more points or whatever it is, however they define winning the game. Usually they have some kind of scoring system. This game was, the objective of the game was to control as much of the map as humanly possible. So it was kind of like Risk, or a very sophisticated version of Life Genesis, if any of you guys have ever played classic games. It's one of the older ones from from all the really old installations of Windows 95. I haven't played Life Genesis in forever. But you had different kinds of soldiers you could spawn. It was actually very basic. It was just a square map, variable size, depending on however big they made it. And then you had 3 different kinds of terrain. You had plains, which you could just walk on. They were just normal. They had mountains, which were impassable. And then they had water, which was impassable by normal units, but you could put submarines on them. And apparently the core of this world in which you play the game is entirely water. So if you have a submarine, you can essentially go underground, because it's all water, and warp to anywhere else in the map where there's water. So in some cases, they actually completely surrounded you with water, so you had to use submarines to navigate it in order to have an effective strategy. So we literally spent 24 hours straight doing nothing but writing programs, updating our AI, and sending them into this test arena where we could see how it performed. So, needless to say, I didn't make it through the entire 24 hours. I actually made it 22 and a half. And then I passed out. I literally don't remember anything after I passed out. I think I just grabbed some office chairs and just laid on them, and then I just fell asleep. I just couldn't make it anymore. And it was like, it started at 9 a.m. on Saturday, so it ended at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Like, by 5 a.m., I felt like I was fine. Like, I really did not think I was getting that tired at all. And then once 7 o'clock hit, it was just grueling, impossible to stay awake. But nonetheless, we did manage to put out a fairly good AI. At one point, I want to say around like 1 o'clock or 2, our AI was easily the best one there. Like, it could not lose to anybody we put it up against. But then again, that is the thing with programming competitions, is that the people you go up against constantly change. And they can tailor their strategies to either find a way to exploit yours or to get stronger in general. So just because you have a good strategy halfway through does not mean that you're going to win it by any means. We actually didn't win. We got 4th place out of 22 teams. I think 3 of the teams either didn't show up or quit. One of the teams had to quit along the way because their client was broken. They offered you 3 different clients, one for C++, which we used, one for Java, and one for Python, but the Python client was just really bad. So, about, I don't know, I want to say 14, 15 hours of struggling with it and getting it to, well, not getting it to work. They just gave up. So, unfortunately for them, because they were one of the teams from our university, they quit, they went to bed, but at least they got a full night's sleep. We probably got a 2.5 hour nap in between the end of the competition and the closing ceremony, because they give you a little bit of a break before they actually go through the final tournament with the rankings and everything. And then we ended up in the finals because it was a 4-player game, so we were one of the 4 teams, but our team got beat every time. It's not like our algorithm was bad. It was just that the people we were playing against were essentially bad matchups, so to speak. Their AI was slightly faster at getting vision on the map, in other words, seeing who all was out there, so they could launch attacks faster than we could, and that was essentially critical to the game, was seeing who could start launching attacks first. And if you could keep that attack going for as long as possible, then you were probably going to win. But it usually ended up being who got there first. What was really ironic, though, was that because there's 3 games played in the finals, it was best of 3 games to see whose AI was better. Team 1, who was one of the 3 teams, won 2 of the 3 games. Team 13 won 1 of the 3 games. However, the objective that they used to calculate the best score of the overall 3 games was the amount of tiles controlled at the end. Now, the thing is, when you have no more soldiers on the map, when there's only 1 team present on the map and there are no other enemy soldiers, the game will automatically terminate itself. Because obviously there's no point in continuing the game when nobody else is left there, you just win. But if you put a soldier into a submarine, there was no way to attack it with the implementation that they gave us. So they would just sit on the submarine, but because their soldiers still existed on the map, the game wouldn't end. So Team 13 filled out the entire map with all their guys, so they got about 750 tiles controlled, whereas Team 1, while winning those 2 games, got the annihilation clause for both of them, so they only controlled about 40 tiles on each game, but they managed to kill everybody off before anything else happened, so the game just ended. And because of that, Team 13, who only won 1 of the 3 games, ended up winning the entire thing. And needless to say, pretty much everybody, including, everybody but Team 13, obviously, pointed out to the people running the competition that this didn't make any sense at all. But they assured us that they were doing everything right. They used a fair method of judgment to decide who won it, which I don't understand at all. But there's actually money involved in this, so the people who should have won Team 1 essentially lost $50 a person. That was the prize difference between first and second, so I was a little sorry for them. But I guess that's just life. I had a lot of fun. That's just the kind of stuff that you do when you're a comp sci. You go to programming competitions and have fun. So that's what I did with my weekend. I'm exhausted, and I'm about ready to go to bed. So, I will leave you guys with voting for your favorite Pokemon in the poll. I will check up on those next video, and then I'll post the results with the next episode. So thanks for watching. I will see you all later.